Customized build process. This is a pretty straightforward one, I think. So the first step here is we can grab the script in here, cd, run that. All right, so let's close this. Let's get into customized build process. Okay, I'm not sure what we need, but we're gonna see. In the meantime, I'll close this stuff down. All right, so let's look. Okay, so we've already done the setup. So the thing is, okay, so we're gonna start the build process. So we're gonna look at some of these examples. Okay, so we're gonna cd into customized build process. I'm gonna clear this out. npm, let's run start. Okay, so we got this error. The source directory was not found. So inside of this build process, we don't have a source dir. So the scripts package, it expects by default that inside the JavaScript files that it wants to work with are going to be stored inside an src or a source directory. So this is telling me that it can't find anything. So that's fine, because this is what this is telling us too. So in order for us to change the location of where we want to store the files, we need to tell the build script where to find them. Now, there's a number of reasons why you'd want to do this. Like, let's say that you were creating a custom theme and you had src for a bunch of other stuff, but you wanted to have some blocks in there. Now, you can't submit that to the theme repository, but you can build it for a client. So if you wanted to have blocks in a different directory than src, this is how we would do it. So we would grab this, and in the package JSON, we're going to replace build and replace start. It drives me nuts that it does that in the scaffold. All right, we're going to put that in there. All right, and what this is going to do, oh my God, come on, is it's going to say, all right, Webpack, take a look for my source directory in the blocks directory. So inside of blocks, we've got this custom block in here. So now if I stop the command, I hit npm run start again, I should get correct errors. There we go, or no errors. So it's actually building stuff now. So now in our build directory, you can see we've got all of our block files stored in here, right? Build, custom block, all the block files are in there. So that's cool. So now that we have the block building, we want to get some custom JavaScript CSS building, right? So the scripts package uses Webpack for its build process. Webpack is like super fun to configure on your own. So what we can do is we can actually add a custom a custom webpack.config file and just extend the one that we're using. So to do that, in the root of this, we're going to say webpack.config.js, right? So that's going to set up a Webpack file for us. And then if we just take this stuff, what this is going to do is this is going to say import the config from the scripts package, and we're going to use that as the basis for our config, right? And so all this is doing is just it's going to set up the exact same build process, the build setup, and everything that scripts has, right? Because what we're doing is we're importing it, and then we're just spreading whatever the default is across the module.exports and exporting it, and then the Webpack knows to look in the directory that it's being run in to see is there a webpack.config.js. If there is, then we'll use it. So we shouldn't see any difference here. Everything will still work. Everything still finds what it needs to find. Build, still build. We're all good there, right? Now, the thing is, what we want to do is maybe we want to add different entry points. So Webpack has this concept of like entry points as in like files that need to be processed and be output, okay? So we're going to do that. So we're going to add some more entry points by taking the existing config and then adding our own stuff along the bottom here, right? So this is what we're going to do. So this is going to say, give me all of the existing config, but then override entry, which is in here, which is inside default config with these two items. So we're going to have some variations, and we're going to have some variation styles. So if I stop this and I run this now, let me just show you what's in build, but a whole bunch of block stuff. If I run that in build, now we have custom block, but now we have variation styles and we have variation JS, right? And these are all sitting inside resources, JS variations. So this is how we tell Webpack where things live. So what this is gonna do is this is gonna generate, the output will be based on this. No, yes, the output is based on the key name, and this is just the path to the file. So you could call this whatever you want, right? But so we have variation styles, and this is variation.css, SCSS, and it's actually outputting it as variation styles CSS. So just so you know that. That's cool. So, but now there's an issue because the block's not being built. So if I delete this whole build directory, I restart my build process, you'll notice that inside of build, we don't really have any block files. We have a block.json and we have a render.php, but the majority of our block files are gone now, are broken, right? So what we need to do is we need to update that. So you could try doing this. You could add this default config.entry into here. And this would make sense because what this is kind of saying is I want to create a new entry object for my config that uses all of the existing entry items and then adds 2 more. You would think that this would make sense. It's super common. However, it won't work because of the way scripts is built, it auto detects blocks. So it's not like a static thing. It's not a static path. It literally goes, look through here. Oh, there's a block. That's a path. There's a block. That's a path. So it sort of works like that. So we can't do it this way. So the way that we have to do it is what we're going to do is we're going to enable the feature by calling a function, by calling it as a function. It used to be that you would use this, and I need to remove that from that example, but now it's different. So instead of calling it as just like an object, or sorry, like a variable, we're going to call it as a function. And now this should start picking up our custom block stuff. So if we look in custom block, now we actually have blocks working. We have all our variation stuff working. So this is getting us all the old entry points plus our new ones. All right. And so the next thing is we're probably going to want to clean up some files that we don't need. So every entry point outputs JavaScript files, even though it may not be a JavaScript file in and of itself. So for example, this variation styles, it's a CSS file. So it's outputting JS and maps and all this stuff. And we don't need any of that. We just want the CSS, right? So we can use another package called remove empty script plugin. It's a Webpack plugin, and it's already been pre-installed in here. So you can see here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new plugin, right? So this is going to be the plugin that we want, right? And then we're going to add it to the list of plugins. Using that same approach of saying, give me all the plugins that are already in the config, and then we're going to add a new one, and then generate a new plugins property for our Webpack config, right? So this is very important. So we have to, because if we don't have these plugins, the plugins is doing a lot. It's doing a lot of stuff. It's how all of the, for example, all this asset stuff, this is doing all of the conversions to create that. So it's super important that you include the existing plugin config. And what this is going to do is remove any JavaScript files that are essentially empty, right? And that should be it. So now if we restart our build, you see we have variation styles.js. I'm going to delete this because I think it doesn't clean it up like that. Now we should see that after it runs, we shouldn't have. Oh no, sorry, build. So you see we don't have variation styles.js and stuff anymore. Right? Do you have an example with the? Cool. That's kind of it, but the LUP's got a question here. Let me just highlight the question spotlight message. Do you have an example with the default config outside of Gutenberg? Maybe an admin page or something? You shouldn't need it. What are you trying? That's a great question. What are you trying? What's your end game? Like what are you trying to do with it? Because the scripts package is just a build. So you don't even need, you don't need blocks for it, right? Like actually, let me just see, because I know that there is a pre-published checklist in here. Yep. So there's a Webpack config with pre-public. So I've got two entry points here, one for the plugin and one for the admin, because my admin is actually building out, like an entire admin page in JavaScript. So you can look at, you can basically look at this as an example.